Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. Today we've got another How Far Will It Kill video, and this is one that's been requested by a lot of you guys, and this is going to be how far will a 12-gauge shotgun kill. Everyone associates a 12-gauge shotgun with close-range deadliness. Granted, yes, shotguns are an excellent close-range weapon, but the question is, if you did have to kill something with one, how far away will it be effective, and how far away can it potentially cause a deadly wound? This video is going to take a little bit of effort because there's a lot of different shotgun loads out there, and we can't test every single one of them, but we can try birdshot, maybe some Cutshells, buckshot, and then some slugs. Each of them having a very different use, each of them having varying amounts of useful distance that they're known to be good at using. So we're going to go ahead and start out with a Cutshell, birdshot, buckshot, and slugs right here at 15 yards. We got a Benelli M2 topped off with a Vortex Venom. Let's do it. Okay, I knew it was going to malfunction because there's our base for our Cutshell. All right, the way a Cutshell works is you cut a ring around the bottom and the entire front of the shell leaves the end of the barrel and becomes a projectile that leaves the end of the barrel and hits like a slug. All right, so I knew it wasn't going to cycle. That's okay. Birdshot. All right, pattern covered the whole target. We knew that was going to happen. Buckshot. Slug. All right, let's compare the damage, have a look. We're going to mark our targets, and then what we're going to do is we're going to begin, because most people can pretty much know that a slug is going to kill something at least within 100 yards, okay? So we're not going to waste slugs inside of 100 because we know it's going to penetrate the board. What we will do is we're going to shoot buckshot, and we're going to walk out with buckshot until we can't hit the board or get any pellets to pierce it. Let's do it. Okay, guys, no real surprises here, all right? 15 yards away, our Federal white box 9-pellet buckshot load through, maybe about a 10-inch spread right there, with the majority of the shot landing into about 6 inches. Of course, every single pellet penetrated the board. We knew that was going to happen. The Cutshell provided a really wicked hole and a nasty exit hole going out the other side of this board. Our 1-ounce slug from Federal was 1,600 feet per second, true ball, rifled slug, 1 ounce. It pierced a nice clean hole, obviously, went right through the board. We knew that was going to happen. The birdshot covered the entire target. It was number 6. High-speed steel bird moving at 1365. So definitely not a weak bird load. We wanted to step up the bird load a little bit. The Cutshell that we made was with the exact same bird load. So that should show you right there that turning a bird load into a Cutshell, you got a hard-hitting slug that can provide a lethal wound at close range, whereby birdshot just can't really do it. But I tell you what, before we back off further, let's get closer with birdshot and see what a birdshot load at like standoff distance will do to the board. And then we'll begin launching in buckshot at long range. Let's do it. All right, guys, you saw that the birdshot, when fired from 15 yards, covered the entire target and did not penetrate the board. I want to make that clear. Nothing penetrated. We got a wadding that struck the board too. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but the wadding put a pretty good little thump on it. So the wad would hurt, but the shot wouldn't kill you. There's a lot of interesting data out there when it comes to gunshot wounds that are, given with a shotgun. And a lot of them are birdshot loads, but they occur at really, really close range. Oftentimes suicides and things like that. So what if it's literally standoff distance with a birdshot load? Will that birdshot stay compressed and go through the board just like the buckshot did? Well, don't take my word for it. Let's find out. All right, you can see the birdshot load stayed compressed and entered the board just like a slug would. So as long as the shot doesn't have time to disperse, it's still going to penetrate with slug-like qualities. Also, if you look at a lot of data from crime labs and things like that, you'll see that when someone commits suicide, they have a lot of burn marks around them. You can see the powder burn because of the proximity of the shotgun muzzle from the board. All right, so that's some good data. Let's start launching in some buckshot at long range. I knew that would happen. I just wanted to do it. All right, we've backed off to 50 yards. We've got the same white box 9 pellet buckshot load from Federal. This is considered kind of somewhat standoff distance for buckshot. Questionable patterns, questionable lethality, you know, inside of 50 yards, especially you're like 30, 40 yards away, buckshot's gonna do pretty well. You start getting a little bit further, you run into some slight inconsistency. So first we're gonna do this, then we're gonna try one of the flight control 9 pellet tactical buckshot loads from Federal. So, all right, 1 round of buckshot into the target. All right, high velocity tactical. This is the Federal flight control wadding, which is supposed to give tighter patterns. This is a 9 pellet high brass buckshot from Federal with the flight control wad. Let's give her a try. Same distance, same gun. Now I have to say, from the shooter's perspective, that looked like a bit of a tighter pattern at 50 yards. Let's go down there and have a peek. All right, so that was an interesting result there at 50 yards. Everybody knows that 50 yards is definitely doable in terms of buckshot with a shotgun. We can see that the standard white box, 1,325 feet per second, 9 pellet buckshot load, got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pellets on the board out of 9. 3 of them glanced over off to the right side, I saw from where I was shooting. So about a 3-foot group at 50 yards, which, you know, you're kind of guessing at that point when it comes to buckshot doing its job. Now at like 30 yards, 20 yards, you know, the flight control stuff does a pretty dang good job of holding it in there. But we saw it at longer range, despite right here we got 4 pellets that landed in a very close proximity to each other with the tactical, you know, flight control wad, 9 pellet Federal. One of the pellets impacted really low way down here, and the rest of them favored to the right and landed off to the side of the board. I would venture to say that if our board was a little bit wider, those other pellets might have just landed right there in that general area. So I would venture to say the group is definitely better out of the flight control. That's what the job of that, you know, buckshot is meant to do. But both the rounds definitely did their job. Of course, they all pierced the board, no problem. Let's kind of step things up a notch. Let's go to that magic number with a shotgun, 100 yards. A lot of people always think, oh, well, a slug is only good for 100 yards. Buckshot's not good for 100 yards. Let's see where those two things kind of merge. Maybe even a few Cutshells. Let's do it. All right, guys, we are at the magical standoff distance of 100 yards. Somehow 100 yards always seems to be that magical distance for a shotgun. So we're gonna go ahead and lob in some slugs. Same 1 ounce slug from before. Now, our red dot sight decided to die on us. So guess what? I get to do all this long range shooting with ghost ring sights on this M2. See how well this is gonna work out. All right, 100 yards, slugs. You get a spot for me?
Yeah, I can see what you're doing.
Okay, ready?
Yeah, run it. Oh yeah.
I think we got 3 slugs on that board down there if I had to guess.
I think so. That one looked like it may have favored the top of the board or just slightly above, but they smacked the crap out of it.
All right, let me mark my shots, and then we're gonna launch a few Cutshells at 100 yards. All right, well, the slugs didn't fare too bad. We're gonna launch in a couple of Cutshells at 100. We have done this before, so I kind of know what's gonna happen. Hopefully we can connect with them. Here we go.
Oh yeah. That made a nice thud.
It did. I think we hit the board there. You heard that our bird load connected. All right, 1 more Cutshell at 100, and then we're gonna launch some buckshot. That'll be fun. Just to the right. Wow. But we did get one to connect, and I think it definitely went through the board there. So I'll tell you what, you have to single load these Cutshells because they don't really, there we go. All right, so I think I know what a Cutshell hole looks like. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and load our 9 pellet buckshot. This is the same Federal white box load from before. We're gonna launch it in at 100 yards. I'm just gonna kind of even things up here and shoot 3 rounds, and then we'll go have a look at our results. Here we go. All right, just an initial observation from here. At 100 yards, a 9 pellet buckshot is shooting about a 6.5 foot group, round by round. So about a 6.5 foot round group. So at 100 yards, I think it's pretty safe to say that buckshot is an exercise in futility. I'm sure some of those pellets hit the board. Let's see if they pierce the board. Well, right out the gate, I can say that Cutshell, guys, was insane. The Cutshell keyhole and cut this nasty hole right through the target. It's safe to say that if you got hit with that Cutshell at 100 yards, you would not be a happy camper. So thanks to Barry for that, for teaching us about Cutshells. Because we have to remember that's one of the reasons that we do these kind of tests, is because of my friend Barry. And we all miss him, I know you guys do, so that Cutshell's dedicated to him at 100 yards there. All the Cutshells, actually. All right, so the slugs, you know, of course, that no surprise there. The 1 ounce slugs pierced right through the board, no problem. The buckshot was an interesting result. Only 4 out of 27 pellets contacted the board, and the group was about 6 by 6. But the pellets that did hit, they made it right through the board, plenty of force. So it's not like buckshot is not lethal at those distances, but you're probably not going to have very good results connecting with something at 100 yards with buckshot. It can be done, but I would say that's probably about the maximum effective range of buckshot. We might lob a few in at 200 when we back up just to see where it lands, but we're not expecting anything from that. Let's go up the hill. We're going to launch a couple of slugs and some Cutshells at 200 yards. This is where it gets interesting, especially with ghost ring sights. Let's do it. All right, guys, this is where the rubber meets the road. We're 200 yards away. First, we're going to try lobbing in some of the 1 ounce slugs, moving 1,600 feet per second out of this Benelli M2, ghost ring sights, 200 yards, same target. All of our shots are marked, so we'll know if we hit anything. And just like I promised you, we're also going to lob in, I've got a few of these buckshot rounds left. We'll lob in some buckshot just for the heck of it. So hopefully the camera will be able to kind of get an idea of how much of a spread at 200 yards that buckshot is giving, just for kind of somewhat scientific consistency there. Then we're going to run some Cutshells with our same bird loads there, and we'll see if we can connect with some Cutshells. All right, 1 ounce slugs. Let's go for it. What's the worst that can happen? I'm just going to kind of reverse bullseye and just lob it right in, Chad.
Go ahead. Right over the top of it. Right in the center of the board. Wow. That one hit a little bit low and to the right there.
10-4. We did get one on the board though.
Oh yeah. There's 2 on the board, at least.
And the scary thing is they're hitting exactly to the sights on these ghost ring sights.
Oh, gotta love
1 ounce slugs, 1,600 feet per second, dead on the money at 200 yards out of a Benelli M2. So we know that a slug will kill at 200 yards. I'm pretty sure they went through the board. All right, and because I promised, I've got a couple of buckshot rounds left, and then we're gonna cut up some Cutshells here and try our hand at a few Cutshells. All right, 9 pellet, white box, buckshot. I'm just gonna kind of sheet it high and let's just see where it kicks up.
Yeah, we'll see it. It's dry enough.
Yep.
Good Lord.
Hit about 2 feet low under the board, and I'm aiming about 2 feet high. So I'm gonna give it about 4 feet over the top.
Well, that stuff is spreading like 20 feet or better.
Well, we might actually had a few of those pellets contact the board, so we'll find out when we go down there. We're gonna mark the board, cut some Cutshells, try our Cutshells at 200 yards, see how well they work for us. That buckshot is dropping about 4.5, 5 feet at 200 yards, and the pattern, like Chad said, from here is about 20 feet, so about the size of a truck. All right, let's do it. All right, we've gotten us a bunch of Cutshells pre-cut and ready to launch here at 200 yards out of the Benelli M2. We're using a Remington 1 ounce number 6 bird load, moving at 1,365 feet per second. This is the same bird load we've been using the entire video for Cutshells, and what we will continue to use for the rest of the video. All right, we're just going to give this a try. In terms of velocity, this cut shell's moving about the speed of a low velocity slug. Our 1 ounce true balls are moving at about 1,600 feet per second. So you got a considerably flatter trajectory with those versus what we're going to see here. And at 100, our cut shell tumbled. So let's see what happens. We're venturing far into the unknown.
Through time and space.
Through time and space. All right, I'm just going to do a reverse bullseye, Chad. You ready?
Yeah, go ahead. I didn't even see it. I have no idea where that thing went. I saw the wad. It came apart, it looked like.
Look at that. I mean, it did come apart.
Yeah.
All right, try again.
Oh man, that thing's hitting insanely low.
I saw it.
I mean, at least probably 6 or 8 feet low.
Yep. All right.
Maybe an exercise in futility from this range.
No, I don't think so.
Run it. Ooh, getting closer. I love the sound those things make going down range. They kind of hiss.
Absolutely.
You see where you hit?
I do.
Okay. Yeah, just down to the right of the board, low.
10-4. It's a long way. I'm aiming at the 16-inch gong under the dead tree up there.
Holy cow.
Yeah. I'm going to sheet it to the left, just this hair.
Yeah, go ahead. Man, I didn't see it. They're moving so slow they don't exactly make a trail, you know?
No, they don't. They just kind of go. Tell you what, you'd know if you'd hit that board, though.
No doubt.
All right.
That one looked like it went way to the right.
Well, I think what happened, it actually came apart.
Yeah.
Some of these cut shells are not doing what they're supposed to do. So we may have to fire quite a few, guys. I mean, this is kind of a long way for a cut shell.
See where it hit?
Yeah, that hit to the right about 3 feet.
Yep.
So we're finding that the accuracy of these cut shells at this distance is definitely leaving a bit to be desired. We found that at 100 yards, they just really, I mean, it was tumbling. In terms of accuracy, they were right there, but they were tumbling a good bit. So it's probably safe to say that at 200 yards, a cut shell is probably an exercise in futility. We launched 6. We found that they hit in erratic areas all around the target. So at this point, I think it's safe to say that a cut shell is probably a 100-yard or less solution. You basically are turning a bird load into a slug simply with the twist of a knife. So that's a pretty awesome thing. And the point of this video is to show what loads will do what at various ranges. We know kind of what the standoff distance is for buckshot now. We know what it is for cut shells. We know what birdshot will do. At this point, it's a battle of the slugs. So we're gonna back off a little bit more with our 1 ounce true ball slugs. But first, let's go see what those rounds did that we shot down there on that impacted. And then we're gonna move the board back to 300 and then launch a few more 1 ounce slugs and see what happens. Well guys, good old Benelli M2 Ghost Ring sights for the win. All right, we saw that with very little to no regulation in the sight arrangement, that Benelli lobbed those 1 ounce slugs in at 200 yards. We got one here, one here. Nice clean holes right through the board. Good penetrating power with that 1 ounce slug from Federal moving 1,600 feet per second. We did, just for the sake of science, fire 3 buckshot rounds. Out of 27 pellets of buckshot, out of those 9 pellet buckshot rounds, only 1 pellet hit the board. And like we said, it threw about a 25-foot group at that range at 200 yards, and the pellet did not penetrate the board. So to answer your question, buckshot, probably not deadly at 200 yards. It wouldn't be pleasant. You wouldn't want to get shot with it. But at this point, buckshot is knocked out of the running. We're not going to shoot any more buckshot, and we're not going to shoot any more Cutshells. We found that the Cutshell accuracy was a little hit or miss. At 100 yards, you can see that it keyholed perfectly to the side. Granted, it cut a really nasty wound, but let's just, at this point, we're going to say that Cutshells, about a 100-yard solution. You can turn a bird load into a slug at 100 yards. At this point, we're going to run only slugs, 1 ounce, moving 1,600 feet per second. We're going to move this same board back to 300, get back on up the hill there, and see if we can lob in some slugs. Again, ghost ring sights, no optics. Let's do it. I've only fired slugs at 300 yards one other time in my entire life, and it was with the Sega 12. And we were connecting with somewhat regularity with some milk jugs that we had set out and things like that. But we're going to put the myth to the test here. 1 ounce slug, Benelli M2, our same baffle board, all the way out to 300 yards. The wind is really kicking out here, and I had optic on the Sega. In this case, we only got ghost ring sights. So I've never shot this far with iron sights on a shotgun, but we're going to give it a try. I'm going to venture to say that that round's going to drop about 4 feet. I'm going to aim about 4 feet over the top of the board.
Go ahead. The elevation could not have been better, but you hit about 2.5, maybe 3 feet to the right of the board.
10-4.
Oh my God, that
yeah,
is...
Well, we have a crosswind, so I would imagine the wind caught it. Let me compensate for the wind a little bit.
Whatever you did, just move it over a few feet and you should be right on it.
10-4.
Wow. Just low and to the right, down there at the corner of the board.
10-4. Let's see. A little too far that time.
That was an impact.
All right, one more.
That hit the dirt and then bounced up and sounded like it hit the board.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it hit about 2 feet ahead of it.
Okay, so one of our slugs impacted and the other one bounced into the board.
Sounded like it.
Ha ha! Well, that's pretty interesting. So it appears that my redneck science, I don't know, maybe my redneck computer somewhere in my mind just automatically like calculated the Kentucky windage trajectory of that round.
That's Georgia elevation.
That's Georgia elevation, thank you. So about a 4-foot drop of that 1 ounce slug at 300 yards got us pretty much in the ballpark there. Let's go see what happened. Well guys, I can't believe that my redneck elevation adjustments kind of came to bear fruit for us, okay? It only took us 5 slugs to get on the target at 300 yards, and we got a really awesome data point to share. One of the slugs bounced into the board and did not penetrate. One of the slugs hit the board direct, penetrated just fine. Busted a nice nasty hole right out the back side of the board, which tells you that a shotgun slug at 300 yards can still kill the crap out of you. All right, you don't want to be standing there, you don't want to get hit with a slug. What goes up must come down. Once you understand where that trajectory's at, you know where that piece of lead is going through the air, you can control where it goes. Doesn't matter if you're shooting a handgun at 1,000 yards. That bullet has to go somewhere. That's why it's important, guys. Always know what's beyond your target. Always know that a round can go further than the intended distance that you think the round might go. A lot of people hunt with slugs at 100 yards, no problem. But always know that those slugs can go further and they can continue to do damage at longer ranges. So that's a really interesting data point. We're going to back off at the furthest range we can possibly shoot here, which is 400 yards. So this is as far as I can shoot out here. Back off to 4 1 ounce federal slugs, 1,600 feet per second, Benelli M2. Let's do it. All right, guys, we're reaching the end of our journey here. We've backed off to 400 yards. We're going to shoot 1 ounce slug, 1,600 feet per second from federal. Same slug we've been using. Benelli M2, ghost ring sights, open sights. Chad's going to spot. He's going to try to help me lob these things in, and we'll see if we can put this little thing to bed here. This is going to be interesting. You ready?
Yeah, send it.
I tell you what, I was right the first time in terms of my trajectory. I'm going to double down and give her 8 feet. Or at least what I think is 8 feet. Because it just looks like a big blur of crap back there. There's dirt back there and a board in front of it. I can kind of make it out, but this is going to be interesting. You ready?
Yeah, send it when you're ready. That one veered off to the right.
That wind's catching it.
Yep. Couldn't see it. Wind's picking up. A little bit high and right.
Look at that. You can see them. And it's crazy how long it takes that slug to get there. It's just insane. And also one thing we're noticing is that we're getting a really strong crosswind. And when that wad is coming out and sailing down range because of the extreme trajectory, you can just see that wad getting carried to the right just insanely fast. So a lot of our rounds are favoring to the right. We've got the elevation kind of figured out. We're gonna take a look with the truck right down there and see if we hit anything. All right, we went down and we had a look and we actually found slugs like just laying around down there that made their way down there. And the splashes took a long time to observe, so the time of flight is ridiculously long, which tells me one of two things are happening. Either the rounds are hitting so low and we're not seeing them in the grass and they're bouncing into the berm, or the trajectory is just so elliptical on these things that they're just taking that long to get there, and by the time they're getting there, they're losing enough energy to where they're not even digging into the dirt. But to make life a little bit more complicated, I only have 5 of these slugs left, which means that we have 5 more chances to hit this target out here. And guess what? If I don't hit it in these 5 shots, we're gonna have to revisit this video. And then I guess that one will be called, How Far Will a Slug Kill? Because that's what we'll basically be testing at that point. However, the data is still pretty dang conclusive, what we've come up with so far. I'm gonna do my best, and hopefully within these 5 rounds, we're gonna be on the target.
No pressure.
Ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go.
All right, send it. Do that again.
Oh, wait.
Oh, did you see where that thing hit?
Yes, I did.
Right down there by the guy line on the power pole.
Yep.
Holy
Which
cow.
means that we actually have a heck of a lot further to go.
Wow.
All right, that's interesting.
Dude, that thing is dropping so much.
Let me find a crow's nest in a tree back here. Ready?
Yeah. All right, it hit about halfway up at a diagonal from the guy line to the target and then bounced into the berm. So
really?
Whichever way you moved, keep moving about half that distance more. Oh, right at the bottom corner of it. Oh, so close.
Man, that is so insane how close those slugs are to that board. We almost got our result. Well, I don't have any more slugs with me today. So that means that we're gonna have to revisit this video. But that's okay, we know kind of where the slugs are going. I do have more of them at the house. Probably should have brought more, that's okay. But I'll tell you what this is gonna segue into is not only are we gonna get this slug that we've been shooting to impact that target, we are also going to try a variety of other slugs to see kind of what performance we can get. So maybe once we figure out where the trajectory's at and we can get those rounds hitting with some form of regularity, we can kind of try a few different slugs and just see what's what. The interesting thing about that result is once I finally found where the point of aim was, which, mind you, was about 65 feet above the target. I am using ghost ring sights. But once I found my spot in the tree back there, about 65 feet above the target, it's just insane with how much accuracy those slugs actually, once they found their way, they were right in there. I'm very curious to see what kind of power they have at that range, but unfortunately, it's not going to be today, guys. So we got a little bit of a cliffhanger we're going to have to revisit, which is fine. And I'll tell you what, I have a pretty strong feeling that you don't want to get shot with a shotgun at any distance. But slugs do not play around. They got a lot of carrying energy. They can get down range. They can cause a lot of grief. As long as you got a gun that can deliver the goods and you know where that round is going, you know, a slug is an excellent contender. Think about old school muskets, guys. You know, a lot of muskets fired round balls that weren't moving very fast, but they can go a tremendous amount of distance and still carry a good bit of energy at longer range. So a shotgun is really no different. Think about it like a smoothbore musket. So this is something I think we're going to revisit. I can't wait to do it. Thank you for watching today's video. We hope you enjoyed it. We have many more on the way to include the revisit for this particular video idea, and we'll catch you next time. Have a good one.